Today on Applied OCD, I'm going to be making a bookshelf toy storage unit for my grandson's first birthday. So we saw this on Amazon and they wanted $139 for this, made out of medium density fiberboard, which is basically garbage. I'm going to make this out of 3/4 inch birch veneer plywood, and then on the back side there's going to be a 1/4 inch plywood backer. Then it's all going to be painted with a white gloss oil-based paint for durability. So what the plan is I'm going to have this 36 inches high, 35 inches wide, and then there's going to be 3 spots down here at the bottom for some of those, a flexible bin, I guess if you want to call it. They have kind of a wire frame with fabric on the outside, and so those are going to go in here in these bottom areas to pull out, and then these upper spots will be a little bit smaller. See, these are 12 inches high. This will be 11 inches high. You can just put toys or trucks on there. And then the upper part here, there's going to be 2 divisions, 2 compartments, and that's going to be 10 inches high. Made a cut list up here for all the pieces I need. So I'm going to get my table saw set up. We're going to fire up and cut all those pieces. All right, I got those middle shelves cut, and now what I'm going to do is turn the camera off. I'm going to do a little bit of layout. Take the workpiece here. I'm going to lay out where the dados are going to go on both sides of the blade, or on both sides of the workpiece. I'm sorry. So we're going to have a dado here, and then on the same on the other side, and that's going to be to receive the dividers for the compartments. I'm going to go ahead and take the blade off and put the dado blade on. Now the saw is currently unplugged over at the wall. Don't everybody get excited that I'm gonna slice my hand off or something ridiculous. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set the dado blade up for 23-30 seconds right here, which is actually 718, 18.2563 millimeters. So I'm gonna go ahead and set that up and we'll give it a try, make a test cut and see where we're at. Put the outside blade on first, and I'm gonna need 1 D thickness chipper and 3 E's. So the D is a 3/32 inch. So I gotta find that one. So there it is, 3/32. And I like to line the carbide teeth up. I stagger them like this because they're actually a little bit wider than the steel that it's brazed onto. So you have to make sure that they're staggered like this so that the steel plates touch firmly. Otherwise, width of the tooth will hit the width of that tooth and it'll spread them apart and you won't have the correct measurement. 1/8 inch. And then these, because they're a 4-wing chipper, I just stagger them 90 degrees. The only time you have to worry too much about it is when the first chipper touches the outside blade. Another 1/8 inch. Oops, get that one on backwards. Turn it around. Got to make sure they're going the right direction. Another 1/8 of an inch chipper. This one's going the right direction the first time. And then finally, we'll put the outside chipper on there with the teeth going the correct direction. So we'll stagger those. All the metal plates are touching all together, and we don't have to worry about any issues with interference between the teeth. So that's good. Now I'm doing this at risk right now because down in the bottom of my saw, I have a dust collection port that goes under the floor and comes up the other side of the shop and goes up the wall and then out to the dust collector. And if I was to drop the spindle nut, it would go straight down into the depths of my dust collection system, and then I would have to try to recover that thing somehow, some way. So we're gonna lock that down, and that should be where we want to be, 23, 30 seconds. So I've made some zero clearance inserts for the table, for the throat plate of there. This one's 3/4 inch wide slot. I didn't make one for every single possible width of cut. We'll just use this one. It'll be just fine. So I want to cut the dados in the work pieces 1/4 inch deep. So I'm going to put my miter gauge on here, and I'm going to take one of the scrap pieces of plywood that I cut off from the sheet. I think I got one here. Oh, there's another one down there. So I'll just take this piece right here. I'm going to set up the fence. I'm going to put the fence back on, and then I have a sacrificial fence that's going to go on there so that I can bring this up and then cut across, and then I'll just keep bringing the blade up until I can measure 1/4 inch deep right here. And here's my sacrificial fence. This just clamps over the fence like this, and it just gives you a piece where you can run the dado blade into, and it doesn't hurt anything. I don't want to chew up my plastic nylon guides on here, but these are just a little thing I made. I bought some inexpensive C-clamps that have a little swivelly pad on them, and took them off of the frame, threw the frames away, and then just made up this piece here, threaded it for that, made a nice little knurled brass knob, and away we go. I'll put that over the fence and bring it up here. I'm going to make a test cut right there and measure it with the calipers, see where we're at. This time at about 240, right there. Now, I'm going to raise it up just a little bit. Run her again. That's all that good enough. So that's how deep it is. And then I want to make sure that we're good this way. And it's a little bit proud right there. So I can move the fence this way just a little bit. We'll give that a try. Ah, yeah. Look at that. Right on the money. Perfectly flush. There we go. 250. Got to keep in mind it is only wood, which means, you know, it can change 20 thousandths of an inch thickness just from winter to summer. So it's not the end of the world if it doesn't fit exactly perfect. Just wait for the humidity to change, and then you'll be right on the money. Oh yeah, that fits pretty good. All right, now I can move the fence over. I can take this off. There it is. I did not check the fit on that, but there's a little bit of clearance in there, which is fine. That's good, because when you start gluing this stuff up, a little bit of clearance is just fine. The glue's going to take that up, and it'll be a nice strong assembly. So now, do the next one. Extend these lines up just for a sanity check, so that when I bring it up here, I look down, I see my marks, I know I'm good to go. And you'll also notice when I push this through, I keep my hands spread apart like this so that I don't push right here and go and grind the end of my thumb off. So there you go. These line up, everything lines up down here. So the sides are done. So just to give you an idea of how this turned out, I clamped all the boards together, and you can see I've got the bottom shelf, the lower shelf, the middle shelf, and the top. And you can see where my dividers are going to go. I'm going to go here and then here, and then the ends are flush. This gives you a little bit of a bird's eye view or a front view of what the cabinet's going to look like when it's put together. So what I did is I got all the pieces rough machined, and I clamped them together on my work table so that you can see. I'm going to use my pointer right here. Oops. The 2 notches in the middle. The camera wants to focus on this. I just fixed that. Getting pretty good, huh? You can see here and here. That's where the top divider goes. Middle dividers, bottom dividers. So I clamped all this stuff together. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure the distance from here to here, and these other ones here to here and here to here, and cut all those pieces. Those don't have to be any other machining other than just a square piece. So I'll get all those squares cut, and they'll be made to the same width as these middle ones, because remember, on the back side, there's going to be a piece of 1/4 inch plywood to create the back of the cabinet. And that's going to add a lot of strength to the shelves. And it's also going to it's going to square this thing up so that we don't have it, racked off to one side and parallelogram. It's going to strengthen the whole assembly, and it's going to make it a real nice little cabinet. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut the dado on the back of sides and the back of the top and bottom to receive the plywood backer. And I went ahead and marked it with chalk, so I make sure I don't screw it up when I cut the slot, the dado, because I've done that before. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut the pieces for the dividers on the shelves. I have a little dilemma. The 2 bottom dividers that are 12 3/4 by 12 9/16. So I got both of those. I was able to cut those full size. I was able to cut the middle, one of the 2 middle dividers, 12 3/4 by 11.5, and I was able to cut the single top shelf divider 12 3/4 by 10.5. So that leaves me lacking one of these, but I've got this scrap piece left over. I need the finished product to be 11.5 this way and 12 3/4 this way. So I'm going to take the scrap piece and I'm going to cut it right on this line. That'll give me a little bit of room to trim. I'm going to cut this in half. Then I'm going to take my biscuit joiner and I'm going to put 3 biscuits in here, here, and join the 2 together. And then once it's all glued and dried and set up, I'll come back and I'll trim both sides and make that piece 11 3/4 or 11.5. And then I will cut the ends off here and make it 12 3/4 so that that seam ends up in the middle of divider. So I'll end up with 12 3/4 by 11.5, which is what I need. And because this project is going to be painted, because of that, I'm not worried about the grain. I'm not worried about that seam. I can make it good and flat, sand it smooth, and most likely once you get paint on it and that enamel covers up the little imperfections, nobody will ever know it except for me and everybody that watches this video, including my daughter and my grandson. I'll cut the pieces first, mark it up, and then show you how to use the biscuit joiner. I made all the marks here, here. I've got the biscuit joiner set for the number 20 biscuit, and the fence is set. You can see right here, it's set for the center of a 3/4 inch piece of plywood. You can see that just like that. It's close enough. I'm using the fence this time because I want to make sure I register off of this surface and this surface, and then I'm going to swing these around and put them together. That way the edges will be flush. So now I line up the red mark on the pencil mark, hold it down good. I don't need 6. I only need 3. So then I'll take all the fuzz, any little splinters or something here that could interfere with the 2 surfaces mating. And then I'll take a acid brush and I'll put glue down in these slots. And then these biscuits go in there just like so. Like that. Yeah, I should center it up a little better. I can do better than that. And here at Applied OCD, if you're a faithful follower, you'll know that I have one motto. Well, I have more than just one motto, but one of my favorite mottos is what? Repeat after me. You can never have too many C-clamps. Then this goes together like so. Line the edges up. That one's 15 thousandths proud, but I'm not gonna worry about that. This is nice and flush over here. Glue that up. We'll clamp it and make sure it's good and flat. And then trim it to size this way, and then trim it to size that way, and I'll end up with the piece that I needed, and I will save myself $67 and change on another sheet of plywood, which I would not buy another 4x8 sheet of plywood just to make one of these. Not going to happen. There's a fine line between just the right amount of glue and way too much. So I'm trying to put on just the right amount. The theory behind these biscuits is that once you put them in place, the glue will cause the biscuit to swell, and that's going to make a tighter joint and give you a very strong assembly. Here's one. Got my mark to the top. Got my other mark there. And line those up. Squeeze them together, which I can't do because there's a lot of force on that. These clamps, I'm convinced, will do just the trick. There you go. A little squeeze out. And there again, you don't want to go too crazy on it because this has a tendency to raise up. Scrape that off. And I don't know if you noticed this or not, but before I've glued this up, you'll notice there was some blue painter's tape on the bar of the clamps. And what that's for is that will keep the squeeze out from getting on the little ridges on my clamps. And just for a little information, that's really hard to get off of those grooves. If you get that stuff in the grooves, it will not be a pleasant day trying to get it out. So I'm going to take these boards, just a couple pieces of scrap, and I'm going to lay them across here with some wax paper. That's another good thing to have in your shop. Wax paper works great for stuff like this. So now I'm going to clamp this here. Got our biscuits in place, a little squeeze out there, and we simply let this sit. Scrape that off. Now, if I was going to finish this like a piece of furniture with stain and polyurethane and all that sort of stuff, I would not do this because it spreads that glue out over and it closes up the grain. And then when you finish it, you will have a very ugly line there where the glue got in the grain of the wood. So I'm just going to come across here, scrape this off with a putty knife. It was pretty even, you know. I mean, you can never get this exactly totally perfect, but that's right there. As long as you don't flip your pieces over, if you keep the pieces registered, same surface up, register off the same plane, and assemble it in the same plane, and you will have outstanding results. And when this is all dry, we'll trim it to the right size, and then I'll have my other shelf that I need. Time to start a little assembly. I'm going to start in the middle of the project and work my way out. Got my brad nailer all set up and ready to go. And I'm going to get some glue in here, spread it out with my acid brush. And they're going plenty deep, that's for sure. So this one, I made an adjustment on the nailer. It'd be my luck. That one will be proud, but it's not. Good enough. Feels real good here and here. I'll grab a couple clamps and we'll get this thing clamped up. I've been real happy with these clamps I bought. Bought these many years ago when they were still affordable and actually made very well. And nowadays, I don't know how well they're made, but at the time, these were some of the best made and most affordable clamps you could get. So I bought them. Ah, I got a sliver. I've gotten more slivers off this project than you can imagine. I mean, every time I turn around, get something stuck in my hand. All right. Can you see that right there? Okay, that's not doing anything. That is not, all I'm doing is bending it over. I was hoping that I could drive it back through there, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. I think I got too much embedded. It's just not going to happen. So, with that being said, give it one more. Now, here's what we're going to do. There you go. Easy peasy. Then we're going to take wood filler, fill in that hole, sand it smooth. And the best part about this is the bottom. You're really never going to see it. The only person that knows it's there, that will know it's there, is going to be me. And all of my millions and millions of subscribers and viewers, they'll know it's there, but nobody else will. Now it's time to glue on the sides. I put blue tape over here on this side because I'm sometimes not so smart, and I didn't want to put glue on this because what I'm going to do, and I'm going to leave the top shelf and the upper divider for last. So I don't want to put glue on this right now. As this cabinet grows, it's getting heavier and heavier. So now I gotta flip this up somehow. Ugh, without getting glue everywhere. Okay. Well, that didn't turn out too awful bad. Actually, I think I'm gonna put a small clamp on that just to hold it together. All right. I'm going to draw some lines on here to get the center line of the board. Try to bend it into submission with some additional brads in it to hold it in place. You can hear it doing its thing. And then on the next one, on the other side, I will be ready. So what I'm doing is I'm putting the stationary jaw on the bottom, and I'm angling the clamp so that I'm pushing this one down and pushing that one up. Glue, glue, glue. Flip it, put it down. Brad nail. This time what I'm going to do is I'm going to pre-mark the center lines. And then as I put this thing down, get this lined up, 3 brads, line this one up, 3 brads, and then do the same on that one. That way I'm not fighting back and forth with these pieces that want to move all over the place. Here it is, the finished product. I got this all finished up today. I got the back on it, and I made a couple of brackets inside here, one for each side. That way it can be anchored to the wall so that if the end user tries to climb up on top of it, that it won't fall down and kill them, because it actually is pretty heavy. Much better quality than the MDF or particle board garbage that you can buy online. This is made out of 3/4 inch birch plywood, and it turned out to be a very sturdy piece of furniture. I think my grandson's going to like it.